Who is Merlin? I have talked a lot about King Arthur and the knights and the Round Table, but one figure among all of them is always still in these stories, and it's Merlin. What his name mean, where did he came from, and why we still read about him in Arthurian's legend. Merlin is a mythical figure prominently featured in the legend of King Arthur and best known as a mage, with several other main roles. The familiar depiction of Merlin, based on an amalgamation of historic and legendary figures, was introduced by the 12th century British pseudo-historical author Geoffrey of Monmouth, and then built on by French poet Robert de Baron and their prosaic successors in the 13th century. A mage or magician, also known as an archmage, mage, magus, or spellcaster, is someone who uses or practices magic derived from supernatural, occult, or arcane sources. Geoffrey seems to have combined early tales of Merlin and Ambrosius, two legendary Breton prophets with no connection to Arthur, to form the compositive figure that he called Merlinus Ambrosius. His rendering of the character became immediately popular, especially in Wales. Later chronicle and Romance writers in France and elsewhere expanded the account to produce a fuller yet multifaceted mage, creating one of the most important figures in the imagination and literature of the Middle Ages. Merlin's traditional biography casts him as an often mad being, born of a mortal woman, steered by an Incubus from whom he inherits his supernatural powers and abilities, most commonly undoubtedly prophecy and shape-shifting. Merlin matures to an ascendant sacred and engineers the birth of Arthur through magic and interview. Later stories have Merlin as an advisor and mentor to the young king until his disappearance from the tale, leaving behind a series of processes foretelling the events yet to come. A popular version from the French post-cycled narrative, Merlin being bewitched and forever sealed or killed by his student known as Lady of the Lake, after falling in love with her. Other texts variously describe his retirement or death. Merlin is a figure in Middle Welsh legend. In Middle Welsh poetry he is accounted a chief poet, the speaker of several poems, and Ambrosius Aurelianus was a war leader of the Roman British who won an important battle against the Anglo-Saxons in the 5th century, according to Gildas. He also appeared independently in the legends of the Britons, beginning with the 9th century Historica Britannicum. Eventually, he was transformed by Geoffrey of Monmouth into the uncle of King Arthur, the brother of Arthur's father Uther Pendragon. The name Merlin is derived from the Brythonic Merlin, the name of the bard who was one of the chief sources for the later legendary figure. In Celtic cultures, a bard is a professional storyteller, verse maker, music composer, oral historian, and genealogist, employed by the patron, such as a monarch or chieftain, to commemorate one or more of the patron's ancestors and to praise the patron's own activities. A plausible suggestion is that Merlin is an adjective and that consequently we should be speaking of the Merlin, from the French merle, meaning blackbeard. According to Martin Aurel, the Latin from Merlinus is the opening of the Celtic form Merlin, to bring him closer to the Blackbeard, in Latin Merlana, into which he could metamorphose through his shamanic powers. Sometimes around the turn of the following 13th century, Robert de Baron retold and expanded on the material in Merlin, an old French epic poem presenting itself as the story of Merlin's life as told by Merlin himself, to be written down by the real author. The actual author claiming having penned merely a French translation. Only a few lines of what is believed to be original text have survived, but a more popular prose version had a great influence on emerging genre of Arthurian-themed chivalric romance. In Robert's account, as in Geoffrey's Historia, Merlin is treated as a demon spawn, but here explicitly to become the Antichrist. Geoffrey changed the name of the character from Merlinus to Melius, with the former too close to the Anglo-Saxon word merde, slang for excellent. In the history of the kings of Britain, Merlin assists Uther Pendragon and is responsible for transporting the stones of Stonehenge from Ireland, but he is not directly associated with Arthur. In addition to the history of kings of Britain, Geoffrey of Monmouth also authored a book specifically on Merlin entitled The Prophecies of Merlin, which later became the 7th book in history of the kings of Britain. This led to a tradition that is manifested in other medieval books. In 8th century Alemannic writers who made predictions under such names as Merlinus Anglisus and in the presentation of Merlin in later literature. During the Middle Ages, Merlin became very popular. Not only does he figure prominently in the French Voyage cycle, but he shines in the French and English romances. Sir Thomas Malory is the first to really showcase him as the advisor and guide to King Arthur in his work Le Morte d'Arthur. And ever since the Renaissance, Merlin the Magician has remained popular in all Arthurian legends and tales. In the Idylls of the King, Alfred Law Tennyson makes him the architect of Camelot, and Mark Twain uses him in his works as a villain. Numerous novels, poems, and plays center around Merlin, and in American literature and popular culture, Merlin is perhaps the most frequently portrayed Arthurian character. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.